station, The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, pressure really mounting now on Jeremy Corbyn. Hard on the heels of a pretty disastrous result for the Labour Party in last week's European elections, with a lot of voters peeling away to the Liberal Democrats, to the Greens, voters also peeling away to the Brexit Party, particularly in Wales and parts of the north of England, and with the news yesterday that the Equality and Human Rights Commission have announced a full statutory investigation into a dossier of complaints surrounding anti-Semitism, Labour being the only party apart from the BNP who've ever been investigated by this body. And today, the row over Alastair Campbell gets worse. Now remember, Alastair Campbell was on Sunday night, Ian Dale's LBC programme, and admitted that he'd voted for the Liberal Democrats. This led to Labour's national executive expelling Alastair Campbell from the party. And today, wading into this row, and once again, pretty much openly contradicting his own leader, is the Labour deputy leader, Tom Watson. He says that actually it was spiteful to throw out long-serving members of the party. He said that actually what it was about was a message that our position lacked clarity, adding they were right. And of course, it's not just Alastair Campbell who's done this. He's been expelled, but you've got the former Home Secretary, Charles Clarke, saying he voted Liberal Democrat. The former Defence Secretary, Bob Ainsworth, saying he voted Liberal Democrat. Even Lance Price, who was a close media advisor to Tony Blair on Sky News this morning, saying that he voted Liberal Democrat. And this is a very, very tough situation for Corbyn. Now, there's no love lost, of course, between Alastair Campbell and Jeremy Corbyn. That is certainly true. And if you read the rules, well, it's not necessarily easy to get to the bottom of it. If during a campaign you advocated voting for another party, the rules are clear. You should be expelled. If you say it afterwards, well, it's not necessarily easy to understand. But just to make life even tougher, a guy called Mike Crichton, who was a former head of the Labour Party's compliance department, says announcing after the polls have closed that you voted for another candidate does not breach the rules in any way. Voting for another party is not in itself a breach of the rule. Well, I think, having read the rule, you could interpret it, frankly, any way you want. But the question I want to discuss with you is, should Jeremy Corbyn back Tom Watson's advice and to give an amnesty to Alastair Campbell, or should the NEC's decision stand, and should he be expelled? And if you think actually members need to be free to vote for other parties, it's okay, give him an amnesty, follow Tom Watson, call 0345 6060 973, or maybe you think, if you allow people to say they're voting for other parties even after the polls have closed, all discipline would break down. You can't have a united party. It must be right to have kicked him out. Text to 84850 and tell me, are Labour in more trouble than the Tory party? Tell me what you think by tweeting using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and of course Facebookers, you can watch us live as you are in increasing numbers and comment there too. What should Jeremy Corbyn do? I'm going to Martin, who's calling from the Canary Islands. Good evening, Martin.
Hello, Nigel. How are you?
I am well, thank you, and I'm not in Jeremy Corbyn's position, but he's kind of in a tough spot here, isn't he?
He is. I'm a Labour member, and I voted for the Liberal Democrats.
Oh.
And, yesterday I sent them an email, and I said, well, I voted Liberal Democrat. I presume you're now going to get rid of me, so can you refund my subscription that's remaining on for the year? But I haven't received anything back yet.
Now, I understand there's been a bit of a social media campaign, hashtag #ExpelMeToo, with people like you, Martin, saying online, that they did vote predominantly for the Liberal Democrats. What do you... OK, so you voted Liberal Democrat because you want Labour to be a second referendum party, yeah?
Yes, that's right. I was wondering, Nigel, I've been listening to Sir John Curtis, you know the guy?
Yep.
And he was he said to put to bed for once and for all the figures for the referendum and what they actually constituted in terms of leave and remain. Did you see what he came to as a conclusion?
Go on.
Well, he had 40-33, as you say, for the ones who were saying that they were unequivocally leave and remain. Now, he said the Conservatives were 25-75, as we know they are, and Labour were roughly 2/3 remain and roughly 1/3 leave. So you put that into the mix and you get 56-44. So I think that's put it to bed for once and for all. For remain.
I don't think so, Martin. I mean, a 10,000 poll done by Lord Ashcroft showed that the people who went into that polling... the people who went in there, and by the way, I watched John Curtis. I saw him myself on Sunday night saying, actually, very little has changed since the referendum in 2016. But let me just put this to you, Martin. Martin, I don't agree with that, but let me put this to you. Here's Labour's problem, all right? They at the moment, and on those European elections, they lost more votes to the Liberal Democrats and the Greens than they did to the Brexit Party overall in the country. But here's the kicker, Martin. Here's the kicker. The question is, where are they losing those votes? Because I'm going to put this to you. Of the 45 target seats that Labour has in England and Wales, 40 of them voted leave in the referendum. And if Labour goes...
Yes, they will. I agree. But, if he goes the other way, then he's going to lose the millions of people who went to the Lib Dems. So it is they've got to go one way or the other. I agree with that, but they'll be slaughtered more for going towards the Brexit than if they go towards the Lib Dems. So you're right, and Corbyn, we know that he probably would prefer to go the other way than the rest of the party, but he will have to make his mind up, won't he?
He will. So should he amnesty Alastair Campbell or stick with the NEC's decision to expel him?
Well, I think he's got to give the amnesty because else he's going to get himself into a hell of a lot of trouble with all the people like myself.
Martin, great chat. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to Peter in Cambridge. Good evening, Peter.
Hi, Nigel. How are you?
I am well. So, what does Corbyn do?
Well, to be honest, I think it's absolutely shocking what he's done. I think you look at the whole anti-Semitism issue, and all of these cases seemingly take years and years and years to resolve. It's almost impossible to remove these people from the party, yet Alastair Campbell says he voted for the Lib Dems after the election takes place, and he's out the next day. It's just shocking.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I have to say, Peter, it is, traditional that if people are representatives, of political parties, if they advocate voting for another party during a campaign, they would, of course, be kicked out immediately. But do you think the fact Campbell said it after the polls had closed means they should just ignore it and move on?
No, yeah, it should be ignored because it highlights the issue within this country about how divided everyone is within the parties, within the country. And during an EU election, they traditionally are used for protest votes. So if he feels that strongly about remaining in the EU, then he should be following, his gut on that and voting for the Lib Dems. So,
okay, and, Peter, can I ask you, Peter, are you a Labour member?
I'm a Conservative member.
Right, okay, but and would you take the...
I voted for the Lib Dems in the election.
Did you? Okay, and the Conservative Party will take no action against you, obviously. Peter, thank you. Well, there's two of you so far think that actually Campbell should be amnestied and that Corbyn needs to intervene. To do so, of course, he'd have to overrule Labour's elected national executive. So it's not straightforward. Down to Cardiff to speak to Martin. Good evening, Martin.
Evening, Nigel. How are you doing?
OK, so, imagine you're Jeremy Corbyn tonight. You've got an NEC that's made a ruling against somebody who personally you dislike quite a lot, and then you've got your deputy leader saying, come on, Jeremy, give him an amnesty. It's not an easy position, is it?
No, it's not, but the last I heard, we lived in a democracy and people are free to choose who they want to vote for and the reasons why they want to vote for them. So I don't see why MPs, members of political parties, if they fundamentally disagree with their party, why they can't choose to vote for somebody else.
Well, they can vote for somebody else, but why should they then stay part of that party? I mean, don't parties have to have some degree of unity, Martin?
No, I'd agree, Nigel, but this is obviously the issue of Brexit is the one thing that's dividing all the parties. It might be that Alastair Campbell and other Labour members, they wholeheartedly agree with Labour and their policies, but there are certain issues they just can't agree with. Under those circumstances, why not?
Yeah, I mean, take issues like abortion, for example. You know,
Yes.
when these issues come before the House of Commons, you know, more often than not, they're not three-line whipped, they're not party issues, they're issues of conscience. Are you arguing, Martin, that Brexit should be an issue of conscience?
Well, I think it is. You've only got to look at the way people voted. I mean, Brexit Party took most of Wales, with the exception of, 2 or 3 areas. Actually, Brexit Party took most of the UK. I don't see why MPs can't vote on a conscience basis. At the end of the day, they represent their constituents. If they fundamentally disagree with their party's line, and there were a lot of Labour members that voted to leave in 2016, then they should be allowed to vote with their conscience along with their constituents as well.
Yeah, no, I get the argument, Martin, but I would say this to you. If the biggest, most burning political issue that we've seen in modern times becomes an issue of conscience rather than one of party discipline, there's almost not much point the parties staying together as they are, is there?
That as it stands, the parties aren't really, I don't think the parties are really together anyway, Nigel. You've got the Conservatives in fight, and you've got Labour in fight, and the only ones that are showing any consistency are the Lib Dems, and that's because they're voting to stop Brexit. So I don't really see much party unity in the big two at least, and then you've got obviously the smaller parties that have made big gains because of the disillusionment between Labour and Conservative members.
Martin, I get the point completely. Thank you for your call. Basically, the two-party system cannot cope with Brexit. They are split between themselves and their voters in the most astonishing way. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC at 6:15, and time for the news headlines with Lisa Raziz.
The man who led the inquiry into alleged Russian meddling in the last US election says if he was confident Donald Trump hadn't committed a crime, he would have said so. Tory leadership contender Boris Johnson has been ordered to appear in court to face claims he lied to the public during the Brexit referendum campaign. Police say the terrorist behind the London Bridge attack could have been planning to target busy Oxford Street instead. LBC weather. Rain continuing in the north of England overnight, drier and milder though elsewhere, with a low of 8 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Louise Knight, and the M25 is a nightmare this evening. There's a 13-mile queue on the anti-clockwise M25 towards 30 for the A13. Only one lane's open there for emergency repairs after an accident earlier. Now, it's solid on the Kent side from Sevenoaks at Junction 5. All surrounding routes are solid with massive queues on both the A13 and the A2, and it's pretty much gridlocked around Lakeside and Purfleet. Still anti-clockwise, 2 separate broken down vehicles are causing lengthy queues from London Coney at 22 to the M40 at 16. The North Circular is struggling eastbound from the A10 to an accident on the exit slip for the Cooks Ferry interchange at Edmonton. Problems on the tube earlier have left severe delays on the Hammersmith and City line from Baker Street to Liverpool Street, and there are severe delays anti-clockwise on the Circle line. Finally, for the trains, South Eastern have delays of 45 minutes at St Pancras.
LBC.
Food freedom isn't just about settling in for the night with your favourite pizza. It's about sprinting to your room because you've calculated that you have enough time to put on that extra comfy outfit that adds at least 30% more pleasure to settling in for the night with your favourite pizza. Fire up the Deliveroo app and find your food freedom today. Woohoo, canny?
LBC.
Spring. A time for new lambs, new birds, new bees, and a new boiler from British Gas. Looking to bring new life to your home? We're with you. So our new boilers come with 2 years interest-free credit with no deposit required and a 5-year British Gas warranty. Plus you'll get £200 off a new boiler when you book a quote by the 31st of May. And our existing home care customers will get £500 off. Search British Gas new boiler. Conditions apply.
Alexa, who is the best English rugby player of all time?
Good question. My favourite is Johnny Wilkinson.
Really? Oh, nice one. Alexa, who is the greatest rugby player of all time?
My favourite is definitely Sergio Perez.
Oh.
Take out Vitality Health Insurance today and we'll give you an Amazon Echo Dot, like Johnny here. You also get an Amazon Smart Plug. And to find your inner athlete, enable the Alexa Vitality skill for fitness and nutrition tips. To get your Amazon bundle today, just search Vitality Health. Vitality. Positively different. New member offer available on certain Vitality plans until 30th of June 2019. Minimum monthly premiums, terms and conditions apply.
Right now at Vodafone, enjoy 4 times more data on the brilliant iPhone XR and other pay monthly phones. Get more tunes pumping, more FaceTimes rolling, more apps, apping, maps, mapping, emojiing, and more box set binging in stunning HD.
That's 4 times more data with 60 gig for the price of 15 on a range of pay monthly phones, including the brilliant iPhone XR. Hurry, offer ends 3rd of June. The future's exciting. Ready? Vodafone. For terms and exclusions, see vodafone.co.uk.
Would you and your business benefit from a personal approach from your accountant? At Barnes Rofe, of course, our partners have the technical skills needed to offer you first-class audit, tax and accounting advice. But most importantly, we'll work closely with you to help your business grow long-term. Perhaps it's time to see what we can do for you. Arrange your free consultation at barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe, clever accountants for business.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Brussels, only on LBC.
Well, Alastair Campbell, as so often over the last couple of decades, at the centre of a big political storm, and this time it's because he's been expelled from the Labour Party by the NEC because he said, with Ian Dale and LBC, that he'd voted for the Liberal Democrats. Tom Watson wades in, the Deputy Leader, and says to Mr Corbyn that actually this was spiteful behaviour. It was done because the Labour Party lacks clarity in terms of its policy and that an amnesty should be put in place. All I can say is this, that this Alastair Campbell row is a symptom. The cause is that what Corbyn has done, he's played this game of constructive ambiguity. He's sat on the fence and he's got away with it for nearly 3 years. He's got away by making Leave voters in the north of England think he's on their side and Remain voters in London think also that he's on their side. And the time has come, Labour does have to make a decision. So I think whatever happens with Alastair Campbell probably has to be in conjunction with Labour Party policy. My sense of these things is that it's not going to be very long before Jeremy Corbyn does say, right, I give up. Labour now is a party that absolutely full-blown supports Remain and supports a second referendum. And when that happens, Alastair Campbell will be welcomed back into the fold. That's what I think is going to happen. Tell me I'm right, tell me I'm wrong, tell me what you would do in Jeremy Corbyn's position. James is a new caller from Reading. Good evening, James.
Hi, Nigel. Congratulations from the other night.
It was a fun night, it really was. Alastair Campbell, what would you do, James? Come on, tell me.
It's funny because I've been waiting on the phone, but you took the words out of my mouth, Nigel.
Sorry.
I think it's going to happen. And for me, I'm actually an ex-Labour voter. I, believe it or not, voted Remain, and I didn't actually really know much about it. But since I've looked more into it, I've voted Leave, and I've left the Labour Party. And Alastair Campbell and all of this is, like you said, just a symptom of Labour's identity crisis. Labour Party is a headache at the moment, and it has been for a few years, and that's, in short, why I left. I think it's a bigger picture we need to look at. Like, Labour needs to, buck up and decide what kind of party it is. When I think of Labour I'm only 28, but my family are all Labour, and when I think of the Labour Party, even the word Labour, I think of people laying bricks and the working class and all that, and I don't know, are they that anymore? And that's kind of why I left.
I think isn't it rather dominated, James, by the Islington set and sort of North London? Isn't that really what the Labour Party is now?
Yes, I really think it is. And, I obviously don't live in London, but I used to. And I think this has come around in the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years. But, I mean, for me, I'm still young, I'm 28, but I remember all the things that Alastair Campbell said, let's say 15 years ago, and then didn't either come true or were spun. He's the original spin doctor. So I can't really trust Labour at the moment, basically.
No, well, I think, James, you've actually summed it up very well. The Labour Party has an identity crisis. Thank you for your call. And one of our callers earlier said, isn't it funny, all these people who aren't expelled, who are accused of making anti-Semitic comments, and the process takes forever, and yet Campbell's gone quickly. Richard suggests, never mind Alastair Campbell's minor rule infringement, as the EHRC are investigating Corbyn's Labour Party for anti-Semitism, Corbyn should expel himself for bringing the party into disrepute. Let's go to Keith, a new caller from Rugby. Good evening, Keith.
Good evening, Nigel.
So, what to do with Alastair Campbell?
Nigel, fantastic result. I've been a Conservative voter for the last 8 years. I was a councillor for 8 years.
Right.
I've canvassed with David Cameron, and I left the party. And I think Alastair Campbell is spineless. I left the party, and I've joined your party, and I'll happily stand as an MP in the next election if we need to. If Alastair Campbell had any spine in him, he would say, I don't believe in what the Labour Party is going to do. I'm going to resign my post. I'm going to stand as a Liberal Democrat, and you can then vote me in or not, just like all the UK Change Party people. They didn't leave there. They just said, I'm going to keep my job, keep my money, keep my pension, but I'm going to stand under a different principle. They're all spineless, Nigel.
Right. So in this case, Keith, you're advocating that Jeremy Corbyn ignores his deputy and that the expulsion should stand.
Of course. But if Alastair Campbell had any spine, any gumph in him at all, he should say, I don't believe in what the party's going to do. I'm going to resign from the party. I'm going to stand. Let's have an election. And you vote for me on what I believe. And if you back me, then back me. If you don't, then I'll lose my job.
OK. No, fair enough, Keith. Very clear. Thanks for your call. Robert on Facebook says, when Campbell was Blair's right-hand man, lots of Labour members were expelled for supporting other parties. Why should he be different? Richard says similarly, Blair swept to power in 97 on the back of tactical voting. What's the difference? Let's go to Houston in Texas and speak to Michael, a first-time caller. Good afternoon, Michael.
Good afternoon, Nigel.
Well, welcome to the show. What do you make of the row over Alastair Campbell?
Well, I'm from Texas, and I remember my grandfather telling me about Lyndon B. Johnson. When he was running for the Texas Senate, he through some dirty tricks, beat his opponent, Coke Stevenson, who in the primary, who then endorsed his Republican candidate. Coke Stevenson lost all credibility with Democratic voters, so he didn't win a single elected office afterwards. So I think that the point with this is that the party shouldn't expel him, the people should.
Well, the difference here is that Alastair Campbell has never been... I mean, I like the story and I get the story that you've told, but Alastair Campbell has never been an elected politician. He was Blair's right-hand man in many ways, and he's been seen over the last 25 years as one of the most effective and powerful public spokesmen. So he's not actually... he's not an elected politician, if that makes sense to you. Does it make sense?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So in that case, if he can't be taken out by voters, then I do believe that he should be kicked out.
Kick him out. Right, OK, thank you very much indeed. Kick him out. Party discipline must be maintained. I wonder what the view from Glasgow is with Gordon, who's a first-time caller.
Hi, good evening. How are you, all right?
I'm all right. Look, I have to say, Gordon, I've led political parties, and if people who were part of that party are advocating voting for somebody else, I wouldn't want them to I wouldn't want them to stick around.
Well, I'd agree with you on that front, but you did say earlier on, because he said that after the vote had taken place,
yes.
It just makes it sense. But one other thing that he said there about tactical voting, up in Scotland here, a lot of us are sick to death of Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister, bleating on all the time about another Scottish referendum. I voted to remain in the UK, and I also voted to leave the EU. So everything that I voted for, they seem to be going against. And with Labour being in a bit of crisis, a lot of the people in Scotland who want to remain part of the United Kingdom, a lot of people are going to do tactical voting and vote Labour in. Unfortunately, the Tories and other parties haven't got enough vote, but we're going to vote Labour to try and get them out, and hopefully Labour will just do a better day-to-day job up here.
I mean, certainly, Gordon, at an individual level, people do vote tactically, or we see plenty of that. But if you're a public figure who is associated with a political party, if you have voted, as he did here, out of conscience, I guess, in a European election, wouldn't it have been better if he kept his mouth shut about it?
In hindsight, probably yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people would have done it anyway, but he's probably not done the best thing for himself in doing that. Do you know what I mean? So.
No, and that's right. And Gordon, I have to say, I do not see tomorrow Corbyn overturning this, but when the Labour Party, and you won't like this, Gordon, because you're going to vote tactically for them, but when the Labour Party become a party of Remain and a party of a second referendum, will you still vote for them tactically in Scotland?
No, right. I would not vote for them in Westminster. I would vote for, if you are running candidates up here, I'd vote Brexit for up here. I don't like Labour. I don't like them whatsoever. However, to get rid of the SNP from Scotland's power, that's the only reason a lot of people...
So you're thinking Scottish Parliament. Yeah, OK, Gordon, I've got it, understand it. Thank you very much indeed. Shane is a new caller from County Waterford. Hi, Shane.
Yes, hi, Nigel. Look, it's a similar message. He's got to go. There's no question. He shouldn't be overruled. It's just a shame in a way, because if you look politically at it, and let's face it, it's politics, it would look incredibly weak, and Corbyn is perceived as weak and a bit of a ditherer, if you said, oh, it's OK, you can come back in then. I think also there's an opportunity for Corbyn, in terms of positioning himself, to be seen as flapping down what you refer to, I don't agree with it, but you refer to as the metropolitan elite. You couldn't get more representative of that than Alastair Campbell, so I think he should pick a fight with him publicly.
But that would also mean picking a fight with his deputy leader, Tom Watson, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but sack him as well then. I mean, that's what...
All right, OK, very good. Oh, Shane, tough man Shane. Sack the lot. Come on, Corbyn, take control. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. It's now 6:30 and time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
The man who carried out the investigation into alleged Russian meddling in the 2016 US presidential election says charging Donald Trump isn't an option because of this reason.
A president cannot be charged with a federal crime while he is in office. That is unconstitutional.
Robert Mueller's report cleared Mr. Trump's campaign of collusion but couldn't make a conclusion on whether he'd tried to obstruct justice. A district judge in London has ruled Boris Johnson should appear in court over claims he lied during the 2016 EU referendum campaign. The frontrunner for the Conservative Party leadership is accused of misconduct in public office as part of a private prosecution relating to claims about the UK giving the EU £350 million every week. A teenager's been jailed for at least 15 years for stabbing an aspiring rapper to death in East London. 15-year-old Jordan Doherty was attacked after a 16th birthday party in Romford last summer. LBC weather, rain continuing in the north of England through tonight, drier and milder though elsewhere with a low of 8 degrees.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7, LBC.
Let's look ahead to what's happening next week when the United States President Donald Trump will arrive for his first official visit. US Ambassador to the United Kingdom, Robert Woody Johnson. There is another blimp or balloon on the way, and it shows the President sitting on the lavatory, and it's emitting wind noises. Is that blimp funny, Mr. Ambassador?
You know, it probably is. I don't think he'll give it two thoughts.
So he doesn't, this doesn't rankle him?
It certainly won't affect the President, no.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With Xero. Get your business digital ready with Xero accounting software.
LBC.
Your business has come this far, but now's your time to soar into the skies of spectacular with a fast, affordable Funding Circle business loan. With decisions in as little as 24 hours and a dedicated account manager, there's no waiting around. So join the thousands of businesses who have taken out a Funding Circle loan and help your business fly. Apply today at fundingcircle.com. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. T's and C's apply.
Psst. Did you know that Pimlico Plumbers have an utterly fabulous 24-hour service for plumbing, heating, drains, roofing, electrics, appliances, carpentry and building? Whatever your predicament, Pimlico Plumbers can send a friendly face to your door within the hour. Shh. And just between us, their work even comes with a 12-month guarantee. They aren't just any old tradesmen, they're Pimlico Plumbers, and they're always available on 0207 928 8888 or at pimlicoplumbers.com.
The real reason Sleeping Beauty fell asleep was because it was taking so long for the palace to sell, and the handsome prince needed the proceeds to buy their new home with no time to dwell.
I know who can help. Property Rescue. I'll contact them straight away.
So he spoke to their friendly team who took care of every detail. They bought the palace direct with no legal fees to pay. Fast forward to living happily ever after. Visit propertyrescue.co.uk. Property Rescue. Fast forward to sold.
Reunite and save up to £300 per couple when you book a TUI holiday now, with great offers on destinations from Mallorca to Mykonos. Book online or visit your local TUI store. We cross the T's, dot the I's and put you in the middle. TUI. Discover your smile. Atoll protected. Offer available on selected holidays for a limited time and subject to availability. Booking T's and C's apply. See website for details.
So, Mark told me about Hiring Hub. The best kept secret in recruitment, he said.
Yeah?
They help you find quality candidates and fill professional jobs fast. Gets great reviews too.
So, you going to go for it?
Is he single?
Not with Mark, with Hiring Hub.
I posted an IT job a few days ago. Interviewing 4 people tomorrow.
Want to fill professional jobs faster? Search Hiring Hub and post your job today.
Is he though? Single?
Rosa!
Would you and your business benefit from a personal approach from your accountant? At Barnes Rofe, of course, our partners have the technical skills needed to offer you first-class audit, tax and accounting advice. But most importantly, we'll work closely with you to help your business grow long-term. Perhaps it's time to see what we can do for you. Arrange your free consultation at barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe. Clever accountants for business.
This is LBC, live from Brussels, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
It's a huge rift between Jeremy Corbyn and his deputy Tom Watson. The current row is all about Alastair Campbell. What it's really all about is Tom Watson wants Labour to become openly a party of Remain and a second referendum. Campbell's been expelled. Should he be amnestied, as Watson's suggesting, or should the NEC decision stick and he be kicked out of the party? But before we get back to your calls on that, and by the way, very happy to hear from Labour voters, even happier to hear from Labour members. You can come on, you can treat this as a confessional if you want to, and tell us that you went against your party last Thursday. You'll be safe with us here at LBC, I can tell you. But I must comment on somebody who is, I think, without doubt, for me, the most annoying person in British politics ever. And that is the Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow, who this week is over in Washington, D.C., speaking at the Brookings Institute. And this is what he said yesterday in Washington, D.C.
The House will want to have its say. And the idea that the House won't have its say, is just for the birds. Parliament is a big player in this, and that whatever view it takes, whether Parliament votes one way for one particular proposition or for a directly contrary proposition or for another proposition somewhere in the middle, remains to be seen. But the idea that Parliament is going to be, it may in due course, for reasons of restoration and refurbishment, be physically evacuated, but the idea that Parliament is going to be evacuated from the centre stage of debate on Brexit is unimaginable. It is simply unimaginable.
So what he's really saying is this. He's really saying that if the next Prime Minister decided to keep the legislation in place, because the law of the land today is that we are leaving on the 31st of October, deal or no deal, what he's really saying is that if a Conservative Prime Minister tried to take us out with no deal, WTO terms, on the 31st of October, he's going to make sure that the House of Commons gets a chance to vote it down, even though it's already the law of the land. I wonder whether, maybe Mr. Bercow, I've got an idea, let's get rid of elections. Let's just sort of put you in charge of the whole thing. I think this man is acting way above his station. He shows no hint of neutrality. He's been there 10 years and nobody seems to ever want to get rid of him. Spence says to me, how do you think Bercow voted? Certainly not Conservative. Well, you're probably right, but who's to say? OK, what does Corbyn do? John, you're a new caller from Wolverhampton. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Nigel. And I won't say congratulations. I've been told not to say it.
So anyway,
right.
moving swiftly on.
Move swiftly on then.
Absolutely. Well, I think I'd come down on the side that this man, Alastair Campbell, needs to go. He's an insert. He's an infiltrator into the Labour. Remember, there's the PLP, there's Parliamentary Labour Party, and then there's the sort of the regional Labour Party. They're two different things, as you said before. It's the Westminster bubble versus the rest. Now, the rest is going to vote for the Brexit Party. It's quite obvious that he has been sent in because even though he's unelected, as is people like Adonis, they're not unelected, they're appointed. It's a bit like the EU, really, isn't it? And
very good, very good.
They seem to be getting all over the mainstream media and basically putting the Fabian socialist point. And of course, you've got the XLWs on the left, XLW standing for extreme left wing, only to counterbalance in a ridiculous acronym I heard today, XRWs. Have you heard this one, Nigel?
No,
extreme
go on.
Right wing. Anyone who's patriotic, apparently. Yes, according to a missive that has gone around the British Army, not to be called that for much longer, XRWs are now enemy number one. So people, check that out. XRWs.
I did see that. I did see that report. Yeah. So John, you've got a kind of. I mean, Campbell, of course, was very much the architect, along with Mandelson and Blair, of New Labour, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yes. And I think this is the schism between Labour now. It doesn't. None of them, neither of these factions, represent the working class as was, or whatever it is now in the post-industrial age in Britain. I think we're looking at a schism where there's a huge gulf in the middle. Your party is filling that void because it's pulling everyone from all traditional. The old duopoly is over. The duopoly is dead. DOD. Duopoly is dead. It's dead. It's a dead, Nigel. It's over.
Right. Very good. Well, John, more acronyms in that phone call than we've had for the whole of the year. Thank you very much indeed. Very interesting. Sonny is a new caller from Limehouse. Hi, Sonny.
Nigel, I'm your fan, but I want to ask you a tricky question.
A tricky question? Right, I'll brace myself, Sonny.
Nigel, in case a Brexit Party member were to disclose after voting closes that he happened to vote for a candidate from another party, would you sack him and refund his £500?
Well, I doubt he'd have given us £500. He'd have given us £25. That's what people pay to become registered supporters. Sonny, I would say you're in the wrong place, matey. You've joined the wrong place. You must have made a mistake, and we'll very happily send your £25 back to you. That's what I do.
No. That's all I mean. Okay, I have a list of candidates that should be sacked. I'm not worried about Alastair Campbell. But I would like Bercow to be sacked, and I would also like Corbyn to be sacked.
Well, I tell you what, Sonny, I've got a feeling that Corbyn's position as leader is in peril. The people that really pull the strings in the Labour Party are now very much committed to remaining in the European Union, very much committed to wanting a second referendum. And I think, Sonny, if Corbyn doesn't budge his position, doesn't get off the fence, doesn't support what Tom Watson, Alastair Campbell, Lord Adonis want, namely that second referendum, outright, no equivocation, I think he'll face a challenge to his position.
That's already happened. It's just that people are too scared of him.
Why are they scared of him, Sonny?
I think he's the biggest manipulator, and there is no other manipulators that can beat him. That's the problem.
I think what they're scared of is that hundreds of thousands of people at £3 a pop signed up to the Labour Party, and there is that big Corbynista base out there in the country. I don't know. Sonny, would you? I mean, you're clearly not a Corbyn fan, but if you were Jeremy Corbyn tonight, would you follow Tom Watson's advice and have an amnesty, or do you think the NEC expulsion should stand?
Well, if I were Jeremy Corbyn, I would do what Corbyn always does, is not to take a decision and show that he belongs to both sides.
Okay, all right, Sonny, thank you very much indeed. Catherine is a new caller from Mayfield. Hi, Catherine.
Hello, Nigel. How are you?
I'm well. I'm not in Jeremy Corbyn's shoes, of course, today.
You shouldn't be, and you should be glad not to be, by the way. But
well, thank you. But he's in this position, and he's got his own deputy leader openly contradicting him on policy, and now,
yes, he has.
Now putting Corbyn in a bind. He's got the National Executive Committee of the party on the one hand, he's got his own deputy leader on the other. What should he do?
Yeah, difficult position, isn't it? It's really difficult. With some of your previous callers, I think really it's time for him to resign, sadly.
Do you? I mean, were you a Jeremy Corbyn fan?
Never. I never was. And when you were talking about Alastair Campbell, I think some of his comments that he's made in BBC in the last week, it was broadcast about the Brexit Party and Russian involvement and everything, is really appalling and trying to discredit. I was a Remain voter, and last week I voted to leave.
Did you? Yeah. Well, they try and delude themselves, Catherine, about this, but I think all the evidence suggests, particularly that big Lord Ashcroft poll, that if there was a second referendum, Leave would win by a bigger margin. I really am convinced of that. But it's just the way that there is something about Campbell. There is something about Campbell and his behaviour over the last week. He seems to want to sow bitterness, negativity, not just to his own party, but certainly to anybody who wants to, leave. And the idea that somehow Remain won those European elections was absolutely bizarre piece of spin. So I have to say, if I was leader of any party that he was in, I'd be pleased to see the back of him, frankly.
Well, I would too. I would too, given what he said recently, in the press. He needs to accept that there's been a change, there's been a referendum, it hasn't been respected. I think that most people who voted Remain, and it was a Leave vote, they should accept that and be, poor losers. And I think that's fine, but I think the landscape has really changed. And we've seen that recently with the European elections with Le Pen and everyone else. So things are changing. Things are really changing.
We had a previous caller, Catherine, tonight, suggesting that the two-party system is beginning to change. Do you think that's right? I think it's
broken. I think it's more than that. I don't think it's just about reformation and change. I think it's actually broken. And I think that both parties, Labour, Conservative, have driven this, unfortunately. It's been their doing.
Interesting. Catherine, thank you for your call and your thoughts. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It is 6:45 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
Leading Tory Eurosceptic Jacob Rees-Mogg says the decision to summon Boris Johnson to court over EU referendum claims is a troubling abuse of process and has been brought by people resentful of the poll result. The man who led the inquiry into alleged Russian meddling in the last US election says if he was confident Donald Trump hadn't committed a crime, he would have said so. Police say the terrorist behind the London Bridge attack could have been planning to target the capital's busy Oxford Street instead. LBC weather, rain continuing in the north of England through tonight. Drier and milder though elsewhere with a low of 8 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm J-Louise Knight, and there are still around 11 miles of queuing traffic anti-clockwise on the M25 towards junction 30 for the A13, where only one lane is open for emergency repairs after an accident a few hours ago. The queues are solid back towards Orpington at junction 4 on the Kent side. All surrounding routes are crawling, particularly bad on the A2 as well as the A13. Still on the anti-clockwise M25, seeing queues from 21 for the M1 all the way down to 16 for the M40. That's after two separate broken down vehicles which have gone. An earlier accident on the North Circular has left eastbound queues from Coney Hatch Lane all the way to Cooks Ferry interchange at Edmonton. Now onto the tube, there are severe delays eastbound on the Hammersmith and City line as well as anti-clockwise on the Circle line, and on the trains Thameslink have delays of half an hour from West Hampstead to St Albans, and South Eastern have delays of 45 minutes at St Pancras.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
At 8 on Cross Question, former Tory MP Steve Norris, Gideon Falter from the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, Guardian columnist Zoe Williams, and Siobhan Bonita, Lib Dem candidate for London Mayor.
Ian Dale on LBC.
Right now at Vodafone, enjoy 4 times more data on the brilliant iPhone XR and other pay monthly phones. Get more tunes pumping, more FaceTimes rolling, more apps, apping, maps, mapping, emojis, emojiing, and more box set binging in stunning HD.
That's 4 times more data with 60 gig for the price of 15 on a range of pay monthly phones, including the brilliant iPhone XR. Hurry, offer ends 3rd of June. The future's exciting. Ready? Vodafone. For terms and exclusions, see vodafone.co.uk.
Bangers and mash, showers and power ballads, tea and toast. Some things just belong together. And if you own a small business, your double act is work you and life you. So at Starling Bank, we mix pleasure with business too. Manage your banking from one beautifully simple app with no monthly fees, instant spending notifications and 24/7 support. Apply in minutes today and say hello to the ultimate work-life bank balance. Just search for Starling Bank the bank that works like you. Eligibility criteria applies.
Hey, nice tattoo work, Jade. But you know what really stings? HMRC are changing the way small businesses like yours file your taxes. Crazy, right? Your job isn't doing detailed tax stuff, it's inking art on body parts. With QuickBooks, you can snap, sort and store tax-deductible receipts. It's the easy way to get ready for making tax digital. You shouldn't suffer for your art, Jade. That's your customer's job.
QuickBooks, backing you. Visit quickbooks.co.uk to get started.
Alexa, who is the greatest female athlete ever?
The jury's still out on that one.
Alexa, is Jessica Ennis-Hill the greatest female athlete?
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Come on, Alexa. Do you even like athletics?
I don't have a body.
Take out Vitality Health Insurance today and we'll give you an Amazon Echo Dot, like Jess here. You also get an Amazon Smart Plug. And to find your inner athlete, enable the Alexa Vitality skill for fitness and nutrition tips. To get your Amazon bundle today, just search Vitality Health. Vitality. Positively different. New member offer available on certain Vitality plans until 30th of June 2019. Minimum monthly premiums, terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Jurgen! I'm defo betting on corners this game.
How many?
4! Look, the pitch is rectangular.
Don't bet silly. Bet savvy.
New Coral customers can get £20 in free bets when they bet on any sport. The smart money's on Coral. 18 plus online, min odds 1 to 2, must be placed within 14 days of registration. £, certain deposit types excluded. Free bet valid for 7 days, stake not returned. Full terms at coral.co.uk. When the fun stops, stop.
How refreshing is it to know that when you're thinking about remortgaging, you can find out if you could borrow what you need straight away without affecting your credit score? That's why at Barclays, we'll let you know with an online agreement in principle from the comfort of your own home. We're refreshing and reshaping the way we do mortgages to make them easier. Search Barclays Mortgages. Let's go forward. T's and C's apply.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Corbyn's dilemma over Alastair Campbell. What should he do? But before I get back to that, let's talk about the Conservative Party, because I have predicted the number of runners and riders would lead to a field perhaps as big as the Grand National. We're not there yet. But the 11th Conservative MP has now entered the race. This time, ex-Brexit Minister James Cleverly. He's running for the leadership, and he said, "It is my job in government to oversee preparations for a no-deal Brexit. Though it's not my preferred choice, I am ready to lead through what may be difficult and uncharted waters." So that is the James Cleverly pitch. Meanwhile, Tory leadership hopeful Rory Stewart has announced today that he will double the amount of foreign aid spent on fighting climate change. Yes, Conservative Party leadership candidate said that. Whether that's going to wow them in the showers, I don't know. Perhaps I'm misreading it. I wouldn't have thought that helps him, but hey, he is out there actually saying things. So, what should Corbyn do? Len says, Corbyn voted 500 times against Blair's government, and one of Blair's architects was Campbell. Absolutely. They clearly detest each other, and Corbyn is acting here out of pure spite. And that's the word that Tom Watson used. He said it was spiteful to have behaved the way that they had. Tom is a new caller from Bath. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening, Nigel. Nigel, you've led me on to the perfect thing that I was going to say, which is this is the Blairites baiting momentum. You've got to remember that Alastair Campbell is a political manoeuvre of the highest order, and basically, what it wasn't just Ian Dale's show; it was Hugh Edwards presenting the election results on Sunday night, where he did say that he'd voted Liberal Democrat. He'd been effectively slagging off Labour for most of that show, and he knew that question was going to be asked of him. Now, why would he do that? Well, he'd do it so that he could provoke the Corbynites into taking a stance against him, and therefore appearing pretty angry, pretty reactive, and that's not a good look at all, Nigel. So effectively, what happened was they then went and went for him, and they took the bait.
OK, should they have just ignored his comments?
I think they probably should have. I think that this is the Blairites trying to effectively get a foothold into a party which is, as we all know, has been very divided for some time. They haven't had power since Gordon Brown left, and they want to get power back. And the thing that's standing in the way of that is momentum and the Corbynites. and this is the perfect opportunity to show Corbyn as being, effectively intolerant of half of his party.
How long has Corbyn got left as leader of the Labour Party?
I don't think he's got long. I mean, what a perfect opportunity they had in the wake of, firstly, the election results, and secondly, this the anti-Semitism scandal, for them to really gain a foothold and to, potentially gain more votes for their side of things.
Interesting. Tom, who is going to win this big battle?
I think it's going to be the Blairites. I don't think Momentum have much chance to stay in power for much longer in the Labour Party.
Right,
so new downward spiral for some time.
It's the big New Labour comeback. Tom, really interesting point of view. Meg says Corbyn needs to follow in May's footsteps and resign. A fresh start for both of them. We might stand a chance there of getting a little confidence back in politics. Well, Meg, just because Mrs May's gone, and even if Jeremy Corbyn did go, the idea that those two parties will unify around any one position on Brexit is, I would suggest, extremely unlikely. Bob is a new caller from West Kingsdown in Kent. Good evening, Bob.
Good evening.
Welcome to the show. So, what would you do? Let's just say for a moment, Bob, you are Jeremy Corbyn. What would you do?
Go and ask advice from Lynn McCluskey, because that's all he ever does.
Well, those trade unions, of course, do financially keep the Labour Party going. And what would Lynn McCluskey advise, in your opinion?
Well, I don't really know what he'd advise. All I know is that Corbyn couldn't do anything on his own, so McCluskey would have to give him advice. But I agree with Watson. Why should they just sling someone out of the party just because McCluskey's told Corbyn to do it?
And Bob, are you a Labour supporter?
No, I'm not. I voted for you in the election.
Did you? Okay. Do you have any sympathy for Jeremy Corbyn and the position he's in? Clearly not.
He should never have been leader of the party.
Right, okay, so he'll do what the big union bosses tell him. You may well be right, for all I know. Bob, thank you. To Pinner, to speak to Greg. Hi, Greg.
Good evening, Nigel, and thanks for taking my call. I'm a very important person.
Oh, really?
I'm a floating voter.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. I voted for Brexit, these Euro elections, but I think the way the Labour Party are treating Alastair Campbell is an absolute joke, and it just compounds their ability. They're almost as bad as the Tories. They just don't seem to be able to do things right. I remember, not that long ago, Jeremy Corbyn, albeit a backbench MP, congratulating George Galloway on winning a by-election against Labour candidates representing the Respect Party. Now, come on. This is absolute nonsense. This axing of Alastair Campbell's membership is nothing more than a vindictive anti-Blairite purge.
And that's because they all hate each other, Greg, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And what are they going to do? Get rid of Lance Price? Charles Clark?
Well, yeah, I know.
Up going, me Spartacus. I mean, what are they going to do? It's an absolute mess. And people like Seamus Milne et al. Should hang their heads. What have they done to a great political party?
Well, I tell you what, there are calls for him to go to. Greg, as a floating voter, do call again. Thank you. I've got time for one quick call. George, a new caller from Hammersmith. Good evening, George.
Well, hi there, Nigel. How are you?
I'm okay. So, fairly briefly, if you would, George.
If you can say hi to a friend of mine called Toby Niga, he absolutely loves you so much, and then you mean so much to him for you to say hi to him.
Well, hi. We don't do requests normally. George, you've got 30 seconds to tell me what you would do if you were Jeremy Corbyn.
Talking about Labour, yeah, exactly. Do you think Labour is Jeremy Corbyn, or Labour is a party of his own?
Well, Labour is a party, absolutely, very clearly, but Corbyn's the leader, and the NEC's judged.
Why do you keep using? But if Labour is a party, why did you intentionally miss out the Labour vote when you're counting the Leave votes versus the Remain votes on the last European elections. Because if you know that every single Labour member is calling for a second referendum and is calling to stop the Brexit, then surely you should be able to count the 13% of the Labour votes in terms of people that want to remain within the EU. But I think Nigel, it's quite unbelievable that all these people praising you 24/7 because you're such a nice guy, a guy that basically left the private work life that you're doing so well to come in politics and help everybody. But the thing is, Nigel,
right, George, I'm not quite getting the point of this. I'm missing the point of this.
Nigel, the point is that you're going to hang up the phone because I can catch you on every one of your lies. Nigel,
well, George, I tell you what, George, we're out of time. I said you had 30 seconds. I've given you a minute. Do call again. I promise I'll put you through. Thank you. Some breaking news. Lord Michael Spicer, former chairman of the 1922 committee and founder of the ERG group, has died aged 76 after suffering from a long-term illness. I'll be back tomorrow with you. At 10, it's Tom Swarbrick. Up next, it's Ian Dale.
Nigel, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, coming up in the next 3 hours, it's Cross Question. We will be joined at 8 by Siobhan Benita, the Lib Dem candidate for London